I've not seen her picture before. I'll be sitting here waiting for the...
I'm leaving, Daniel. I came here to be with you, but I want answers.
I'm thinking this is unsettled.
He is lying to me, and he's trying to make me look insane. I'm getting sick to my stomach. It's making me question more about this woman. What is he hiding about it that he has to lie about it?
Lisa couldn't believe her eyes. Every message, every late night call, every whispered excuse she had once brushed off suddenly made sense in the worst possible way. Daniel wasn't just lying, he had been living an entire double life while she poured her heart, her trust, and an eye-watering $900,000 into what she thought was a shared dream. And now, staring at the evidence on her phone, the realization hit her like a thunderbolt. The man she loved was not the man she thought she knew. The betrayal wasn't just emotional, it was financial, public, and devastating all at once, and it was about to explode in ways she couldn't yet imagine. I'm Sabrina from TLC Drama Live, and today we're peeling back the layers of one of the most jaw-dropping scandals in 90-day Fiancé history. Hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you would do if someone you trusted with your heart and your money turned out to be living a secret life right under your nose. You won't want to blink because every moment here is packed with twists that could make even the most seasoned reality TV fan gasp. The first shock came when Lisa discovered the financial side of Daniel's deception. She thought she was investing in a grand business venture, a future where she would never have to worry about money again. Daniel had painted the picture perfectly. Luxury homes, investor meetings, opportunities of a lifetime, but the $900,000 she handed over wasn't fueling a business empire. Instead, it was quietly vanishing into Daniel's secret world, a world Lisa had no idea existed. She felt the ground drop beneath her, the trust that had been the foundation of their relationship crumbling with every passing second. How could the man who had promised her everything, who had asked for her complete faith, betray her so completely? And then came the emotional betrayal. The late night calls she had ignored, the mysterious messages she had rationalized as business chatter, the unexplained disappearances, they weren't what she thought. Daniel had been messaging someone else, someone far away, someone whose existence he had hidden from Lisa entirely. A Nigerian woman, a new romantic interest, and possibly even a plan to marry her, all while maintaining the fade of love, excitement, and trust with Lisa. The shock of this dual life pierced her, leaving her heart pounding, disbelief flooding every thought. As she dug deeper, the layers of deception began to unravel. Screenshots, messages, call logs, they were all there, undeniable and inescapable. Every excuse Daniel had offered suddenly sounded hollow, rehearsed, and insulting. Lisa's mind raced with questions. Who was this mysterious woman? How did she find out before anyone else did? Could Daniel have manipulated his way through months of love and promises while secretly betraying her? And what about the $900,000 she had entrusted to him? Was it gone forever, swallowed by lies and manipulation? Her anger burned hot, but so did the disbelief. She had loved with everything she had, and the man she believed in had weaponized her trust against her. Lisa's heartbreak was raw, immediate, and public. The whispers of scandal were already starting to swirl online as reality TV fans caught wind of the story. Every rational thought collided with her emotions, and she knew one thing for certain: this was no ordinary betrayal. This was a calculated, emotionally devastating revelation that would change everything. But just when Lisa thought she had seen the full picture, she stumbled across something she hadn't expected. Evidence she wasn't prepared to confront. Something that would push the saga into even darker territory, forcing her to face truths she had tried to avoid. Questions multiplied. Her trust evaporated further, and the drama was only just beginning. Who was Daniel really? And what would happen to the life and money she had so blindly invested in him? The answers were coming, but Lisa wasn't ready for them yet. From the very beginning, Daniel had a way of making Lisa feel like she had found someone who truly understood her, someone who would make all her dreams come true. It wasn't just what he said, it was how he said it. The tone of certainty in his voice, the carefully timed compliments, the little gestures that seemed spontaneous but were always perfectly calculated. He painted a picture of a life dripping with luxury, a future where money would never be a worry, and every problem could be solved with the right partnership. Lisa, like so many others caught in the swirl of charm, believed it wholeheartedly. She trusted him completely, imagining a shared life filled with comfort, adventure, and love. Daniel's tactics weren't random. He created urgency where there was none, pressing Lisa to act quickly, to make decisions that felt natural but were actually carefully nudged. Late-night conversations were framed as intimate sharing, but behind the warmth, there was a subtle pressure. Hidden messages and quick phone deletions became normal, framed as privacy or personal boundaries, while small inconsistencies in his stories were rationalized by Lisa because she wanted to believe in the man she loved. Every promise sounded plausible, every dream attainable, and every reassurance reinforced the illusion of trust. The more Daniel spoke of success, the more Lisa invested, not only emotionally, but financially. The idea of contributing to a business venture that promised long-term wealth and stability seemed like a natural extension of their love. She didn't see it as money being sent blindly, she saw it as an act of faith, a step closer to the life they had dreamed about together. Every meeting, every plan, every show of progress reinforced her belief. Daniel's charm masked the warning signs, and she mistook manipulative urgency for devotion, secrecy for romance, and inconsistency for busy schedules. Subtle foreshadowing began to creep into their interactions, almost imperceptible at first. A call that ended abruptly, a text that appeared on her phone but quickly disappeared, vague answers about travel or work, they were easy to overlook. Lisa chalked them up to business pressures or the complexities of long-distance communication. But each small anomaly, each slight misalignment between words and actions, was a piece of a puzzle she wasn't aware she was assembling. The tension was there, quietly building in the background, waiting for a single spark to ignite the revelation that would upend her trust entirely. Then came the pivotal moment. Every conversation, every investment, every ounce of trust converged as Lisa made a decision she thought was grounded in love and foresight. She handed over $900,000, convinced she was securing a future filled with shared success and partnership. The weight of that amount felt justified, a symbol of her commitment and belief in Daniel. She was blind to the cracks forming behind the scenes, unaware that the illusion of love she clung to was beginning to fracture in ways she could not yet imagine. You won't believe what Lisa saw next. It changes everything. In that instant, the dreams of wealth, stability, and romance she had invested in collided with the shadows of secrecy, subtle manipulations, and a pattern of behavior that was never about her well-being, but about Daniel's control and gain. Every reassurance, every promise of security was part of a larger performance that masked a truth she wasn't prepared to confront. And as she watched the pieces begin to fall into place, the full scope of Daniel's deception started to reveal itself, threatening to sweep away not just her money, but her trust, her hope, and the carefully constructed life she thought they were building together. The line between love and illusion blurred, leaving Lisa teetering on the edge of disbelief and heartbreak. From the moment Lisa handed over the $900,000, things didn't magically get easier, they got stranger. Daniel, who had once been all charm and accessibility, began slipping away in ways that felt small but alarming. A phone left face down on the couch, conversations ending abruptly when she walked into the room, unexplained trips and odd errands at odd hours. At first, Lisa tried to rationalize it. Maybe he was stressed. Maybe business was hectic. But something about the rhythm of his absences, the nervous laugh when she asked a simple question, and the way he checked his messages like he was hiding something didn't sit right. The tension started creeping into every interaction. Lisa wanted to trust. She really did. But intuition gnawed at her. A nagging voice whispered that something was off. The line between love and fear blurred, each day a mix of hope and dread. She began noticing the subtle patterns she had ignored before. The sudden shift in tone when certain topics came up. The way he would charm his way out of questions. The tiny inconsistencies in his explanations. Daniel's manipulative behaviors were on display for anyone paying attention. Gaslighting disguised as reassurance, deflection disguised as humor, charm used as a shield to distract from what he was really doing. Late-night calls became a constant source of anxiety. He would answer in hushed tones, walk to another room, or abruptly end conversations that seemed innocent on the surface. Text messages were quick and vague, sometimes disappearing entirely. Lisa began noticing that certain calls seemed deliberately timed when she was distracted or out of sight, as if secrecy had become a ritual. Every small lapse, every inconsistent answer began stacking like a series of dominoes she feared would collapse all at once. And then came the truly unsettling moment. A message from an unknown number. a deleted notification, a sudden flurry of activity on social media he claimed to forget to show her. Each one, small on its own, accumulated into a growing storm of doubt. Lisa's mind raced between what she wanted to believe and what she couldn't ignore. Every manipulative pattern Daniel displayed, every casual dismissal, every charm offensive, every carefully timed apology began to feel less like love and more like control. Suspense hung in the air constantly. Would he answer that late-night call? Who was he really speaking to when he claimed to be handling work? Each unanswered question, each tiny deception built layers of tension that Lisa could feel in her chest, in the pit of her stomach. She started watching his behaviors like a detective, comparing notes in her head, trying to make sense of contradictions that shouldn't exist in a trusting partnership. The text she discovered next made her question everything. They weren't just late-night jokes or work updates, they hinted at a secret life that Daniel had meticulously hidden from her. Each word on the screen pulled her further into disbelief, the carefully constructed narrative of trust and love unraveling before her eyes. Patterns that had once seemed innocuous suddenly looked like a roadmap of deception, each move calculated to manipulate, distract, and gaslight. Even as anger and disbelief surged, Lisa couldn't help but try to reconcile what she wanted to be true with the evidence screaming otherwise. The more she saw, the harder it became to ignore the growing suspicion Daniel was playing a game, and she had been a player without realizing it. Every late-night disappearance, every vague excuse, every tiny manipulation was a brushstroke painting a portrait of betrayal she wasn't ready to fully confront. And as she stared at the phone, the pieces began falling into place, threatening to expose secrets that could shatter everything she thought she knew about the man she loved. Lisa's heart sank the moment she realized the pattern she had feared was real. What started as vague inconsistencies, late-night whispers, and disappearing acts had escalated into a full-blown revelation she wasn't emotionally prepared for. Her eyes landed on messages that made her stomach twist, affectionate text to a Nigerian woman she had never met, flirty exchanges with multiple American women, all carefully hidden behind the smile she had once trusted without question. Each notification, each screenshot she had managed to capture, peeled away the fantasy Daniel had sold her. The man who promised love, loyalty, and financial partnership had been living a double life right under her nose. As she scrolled, disbelief and anger tangled with the sting of betrayal. It wasn't just the emotional deception, this was intertwined with the $900,000 she had trusted him with, money she had believed would build a shared future. Betrayal is always sharp, but when someone exploits your trust and love for financial gain, the pain cuts differently, leaving a mix of fury, shame, and heartbreak that's almost physical. Lisa felt like the ground had disappeared beneath her, each revelation a gust of wind blowing her stability away. The carefully constructed life she thought she shared with Daniel now seemed like a mirage. Every message she uncovered added fuel to the storm in her chest. There were declarations of affection she thought were hers alone, plans and promises she hadn't been privy to, hints of a life outside their shared reality. The Nigerian woman wasn't a casual fling. The tone and frequency of their conversation suggested deep emotional involvement. The American women, on the other hand, hinted at a pattern of repeated manipulation, each encounter a piece of the larger puzzle of deceit. It wasn't just cheating, it was strategy, and the sophistication of it made the emotional sting sharper. Lisa's mind raced. How could someone she trusted so completely manage to compartmentalize a secret life so meticulously? How could the man who had made grand promises, who had spoken so passionately about a shared future, harbor such elaborate deceit? The juxtaposition of charm and duplicity, love and exploitation, left her reeling. Her hands trembled as she compiled the evidence, screenshots, dates, and conversations, each one a thread weaving a story she wasn't ready to confront but couldn't ignore. She knew confrontation was inevitable. The emotional buildup was nearly unbearable. Her anger simmered alongside sadness, and curiosity battled fear. How would he respond? Would he deny it, deflect, or crumble under the weight of proof? The anticipation of facing him, combined with the realization of what he had done, created a tension that was almost unbearable. Every thought circled back to the financial loss and the emotional investment she had made, both now entangled in a betrayal so blatant it felt surreal. What she found in his messages will leave you stunned. The depth of deception, The scope of his secret relationships and the combination of emotional and financial manipulation painted a picture no one could ignore. Lisa's mind teetered on the edge of disbelief and outrage, every heartbeat echoing the gravity of what she had uncovered. The confrontation was imminent, and the air was thick with unspoken truths and raw emotion. One thing was certain, nothing would ever be the same, and Daniel's carefully hidden life was about to collide violently with the reality Lisa now faced, leaving both of them standing on the edge of a storm that had been years in the making. Lisa took a deep breath, her hands shaking as she held the screenshots like pieces of a puzzle she'd finally solved. Every message, every secret exchange, every hidden plan was laid bare before Daniel, and for the first time, she refused to let fear or hope cloud her judgment. "Daniel, what is this?" she demanded, her voice tight but steady. Her eyes searched his, looking for any flicker of honesty, any sign that the man she trusted might have a shred of remorse. Daniel's first reaction was silent, a pause long enough to make Lisa's chest tighten, long enough for every doubt, every anxious moment from the past months to surge forward. Then came the words, smooth and calculated, denial. "You're misunderstanding this," he said, his tone calm, almost too calm, as if the evidence in her hands didn't exist. He shifted the blame, hinted at misinterpretation, tried to paint her as paranoid. Every tactic he used was a mirror of the manipulative behavior she had already noticed, gaslighting wrapped in charm. He acted as though her trust, her $900,000, and her feelings were the problem, not his deception. Lisa felt the familiar sting of disbelief mixed with rising anger. She realized painfully how easy it had been to fall for someone who could talk so convincingly, who could make her feel like the doubt was hers and not his. She recalled the late-night calls, the disappearing acts, the urgency in his messages, each now glaringly obvious as warning signs she had chosen to overlook in favor of hope. She was sure many watching would recognize that feeling. Trusting someone completely and discovering the person you thought you knew could manipulate reality itself. Her voice grew firmer. "I have every message, every conversation, every proof of what's been going on. You can't deny this." The words cut through the tension, but Daniel's response was almost surgical. He deflected, laughed nervously, tried to redirect her focus, and even questioned her memory of events. He acted like a master of crisis management, but the cracks in his performance were undeniable. Lisa saw it, felt it, and it only amplified the emotional storm inside her. She thought about how trust works in relationships, how giving someone your heart and your finances requires vulnerability, and how devastating it feels when that vulnerability is weaponized against you. The energy in the room was thick, a mix of rage, heartbreak, and disbelief punctuated by Daniel's careful denials. Lisa's reflection, her ability to analyze his behavior even in the middle of emotional chaos, revealed just how methodical the deception had been. Every lie was layered, calculated, and delivered with the intent to confuse. His reaction shocked Lisa, but the worst was still coming. There was a pause, almost cinematic, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. Daniel's calm mask was slipping, but would he ever fully admit the truth? Or would he keep spinning, keep twisting, and keep hiding behind the persona she had once admired? The room felt heavy with anticipation, the kind of uncertainty that makes every heartbeat louder than the last. Lisa stood at the edge of revelation, realizing that confrontation was only the beginning, that the full extent of betrayal and the choices she'd have to make next were still waiting to be revealed. The moment Daniel went public with his announcement, it was like someone had dropped a bomb in Lisa's life. What had been a private betrayal, the secret messages, the hidden relationships, the stolen $900,000 suddenly exploded into a spectacle for everyone to see. Social media lit up. Followers shared screenshots, news outlets picked up the story, and overnight, Lisa's heartbreak became a headline. Imagine the sting. Your worst private fears are now trending topics, memes, and TikTok clips, and every casual scroll reminds you of the person you trusted most betraying you on a very public stage. Daniel's announcement wasn't just casual. It had all the hallmarks of showmanship, a staged photo, a caption dripping with smug triumph, and timing that made it feel like a mic drop at the worst possible moment. He had transformed personal betrayal into a performance, and Lisa was forced into the front row. audience included. The humiliation hit harder because it wasn't just the betrayal itself, it was the way it was broadcast, amplified, and packaged as entertainment for the masses. Friends reached out in sympathy, strangers commented with unsolicited advice, and the dopamine-fueled rush of online gossip made her pain everyone's business. Lisa felt a storm of emotions, cycling from anger to disbelief to a surreal numbness. She remembered how Daniel had once painted himself as a man of ambition and loyalty, someone building a future together, and now that image was collapsing in front of millions. Her mind raced through every conversation, every promise, every plan. It was almost cinematic in the way the betrayal and public spectacle collided. Private life turned viral theater with no pause button. Pop culture had a way of normalizing such public drama. Think of the reality stars who accidentally or intentionally lived their scandals online, but for Lisa, this was personal. This wasn't a storyline on a TV show she could watch from her couch. This was her reality, and she was in it unwillingly. Meanwhile, Daniel's behavior patterns were obvious to anyone paying attention. The performative bravado, the timing of public announcements, the way he controlled the narrative, these were textbook manipulative tactics, the same ones psychologists warn about. And yet, he had the nerve to frame it as a celebration, a victory, a new beginning. The audacity was striking. The kind of audacity that makes people question humanity while also secretly wondering if they'd react differently in the same situation. Fans dissected every post, every caption, every tagged friend, and in the chaos of online reactions, Lisa's emotional turmoil deepened. The narrative had escalated from private deception to full-blown public scrutiny. Every comment, every reaction online reminded her that not only was her heart broken, but her finances and her reputation were now under the microscope. The humiliation was unavoidable, and the stakes were higher than ever. She needed to decide, retreat and disappear, or fight for her dignity and financial security in a world that now had a front row seat to her suffering. You won't believe how the fans reacted online. Lisa was left standing in the wreckage of her public and private life, her mind spinning with questions about Daniel, her $900,000, and the choices she would need to make next. Would she let this public spectacle define her, or was there a path to reclaim not just her money, but her story and her power? The next moves would be critical, and the tension was only just beginning to mount. Lisa had reached a point where heartbreak alone wasn't enough to define her. After the shock of public humiliation and the gut punch of losing $900,000, something inside shifted. The grief, the anger, the betrayal, they all fused into a sharp clarity. She would not let Daniel write the final chapter of her story. She realized the fight wasn't just about money. It was about reclaiming her dignity, her agency, and proving to herself and the world that being betrayed didn't mean being defeated. The first step was legal. Lisa consulted attorneys, reviewed contracts, traced transactions, and built a case that went beyond emotional outrage. Misappropriation, fraud, and financial deception were serious charges, and the evidence she had quietly collected over months suddenly became a weapon. Texts, bank transfers, and correspondence painted a pattern that showed Daniel's actions weren't one-off mistakes. They were calculated moves designed to manipulate and exploit trust. Every late-night message she had questioned now had context. Every hidden phone call suddenly became a critical piece of the puzzle. The narrative of love and ambition Daniel had sold was collapsing in court documents, and Lisa was holding the roadmap to exposing it. Emotionally, Lisa's mindset transformed in tandem with her legal strategy. The shame and confusion that had paralyzed her in the aftermath of betrayal now fueled her determination. Heartbreak turned into resolve, disappointment into focus. She realized empowerment wasn't about vengeance, it was about reclaiming control and rewriting the story of her own life. Each step she took in gathering evidence, consulting lawyers, and strategizing her public responses reinforced her confidence. Every small win, every corroborated fact, strengthened the sense that she could face Daniel and the world without fear. Public perception played a role too. The story was no longer just her private tragedy, it had become a cautionary tale, drawing attention from fans, followers, and curious onlookers online. Media outlets reported on the developing lawsuit, speculating about the outcomes and dissecting every revelation. Social commentary and fan theories added pressure, but also validated her decision to fight. Lisa understood that the eyes of the public were now part of the courtroom's ecosystem. Every post, every share, every comment became a stage where her narrative could compete against Daniel's narrative. The tension escalated as she prepared for the courtroom battles ahead. Lawyers on both sides combed through evidence, subpoenaed records, and examined witnesses. What had begun as personal betrayal was transforming into a legal and psychological confrontation that could reshape both their lives. The stakes had climbed higher than just money, trust, reputation, and personal empowerment were all on the line. The momentum was undeniable. Lisa's fight was no longer about reaction, it was about action, strategy, and reclaiming the power that had been stripped from her. The courtroom drama revealed secrets no one expected. As hearings approached and evidence mounted, Lisa's story became emblematic of a deeper truth. Betrayal might be devastating, but courage, preparation, and the will to fight back can turn despair into an unshakable force. Every move she made now had consequences far beyond her personal life, and the next chapter promised to be even more explosive, unpredictable, and revealing. The courtroom was tense, the air thick with anticipation as Lisa stepped in with a calm that belied the storm inside her. Every glance toward Daniel was charged with history. $900,000 gone, trust shattered, and humiliation still fresh. Her lawyer opened with a meticulous presentation of evidence, laying out texts, financial transfers, and timelines that traced Daniel's calculated manipulation. Each piece wasn't just proof of financial misconduct, it told a story of deceit, carefully orchestrated over months. Daniel's initial confidence began to waver as the weight of his actions became impossible to dismiss. Lisa watched silently as her attorney revealed late-night messages she had once brushed off, showing Daniel juggling multiple relationships while portraying loyalty to her. The room felt electric. Witnesses recounted odd behaviors, secretive communications, and inconsistent explanations. Daniel attempted to deflect, shrugging off accusations, weaving partial truths into misleading narratives. But the court was relentless, and each contradiction chipped away at the image he had so carefully curated. The gap between his polished persona and his deceptive behavior widened, exposing not only his lies, but also the psychological manipulation that had ensnared Lisa. Between the arguments and evidence, Lisa found herself reflecting on how easy it had been to trust someone who appeared charming and ambitious. She understood now how manipulative behavior often disguises itself as affection, urgency, and concern. Every deceptive pattern, every hidden agenda wasn't just about money or opportunity, it was about control, about creating dependency and exploiting emotion. She realized that her gut had been right all along, and that intuition, when paired with evidence, was a powerful tool for reclaiming power. The drama escalated as the opposing counsel tried to shift blame, framing Lisa as naive or overly trusting. Each attempt at gaslighting in court mirrored the private manipulation she had endured, but now it was public, and now it could be challenged. Her attorney dissected every argument, dismantling excuses with precision, using Daniel's own words and actions against him. The courtroom became a stage where lies were exposed, strategy met consequence, and the stakes felt larger than just one failed relationship. They were about integrity, accountability, and the consequences of betrayal. Lisa's emotions fluctuated with each revelation: shock, anger, a fleeting sense of vindication, and sometimes exhaustion. She recognized the emotional complexity of confronting someone who had once been a trusted partner, but she also felt a growing resilience. Being lied to and publicly humiliated had not broken her, it had sharpened her. Every admission, every cross-examination, every witness account added layers to her understanding of trust, manipulation, and personal strength. Every testimony brought Lisa closer to truth and closure. By the end of the day, Daniel's defenses were cracking visibly. Confidence replaced by unease, denial replaced by hesitation. The man who had seemed untouchable in his duplicity now faced the tangible consequences of his action. The tension in the courtroom lingered, unresolved, and everyone in the room, including Lisa, was left wondering, would justice finally catch up to him, or would there be yet another twist before the final verdict? The fallout was immediate. like a tidal wave sweeping through social media and reality TV forums. Fans dissected every detail of Daniel and Lisa's saga, scrolling through timelines, screenshots, and video clips, forming hot takes and speculative threads that made the story explode online. Every post, comment, and meme reflected disbelief, amusement, or outright outrage, turning Lisa's private pain into public conversation. Some defended her, pointing out how easily trust can be exploited, while others critiqued her for handing over such a massive sum. Through it all, Lisa watched quietly, realizing she now had the power to control the narrative rather than let gossip define her. Her personal growth became unmistakable. The woman who had once been blindsided by charm and false promises was now deliberate, measured, and empowered. She reclaimed her voice, using interviews, posts, and public appearances to articulate not just the financial betrayal but the emotional toll. There was a subtle brilliance in how she reframed the story, not as a victim of circumstance, but as someone who had survived manipulation, exposure, and public scrutiny. Her dignity, once threatened by scandal, was now restored through transparency, evidence, and unwavering resolve. Online discussions weren't just about the scandal, they became a mirror of collective curiosity. People debated behavioral patterns, manipulative tendencies, and the psychology behind deception. Observers noted Daniel's urgency tactics, hidden agendas, and how he managed appearances while orchestrating lies. Witty commentary circulated, pointing out irony after irony, how a man who flaunted ambition and wealth crumbled under accountability. Fans dissected body language, rewatched confessional clips, and speculated about motives, revealing how public storytelling amplifies both drama and education in human behavior. Amid the chatter, Lisa reflected privately on what she had learned. She recognized how important it is to trust intuition, verify promises, and protect personal boundaries, especially when money, ambition, and romance intersect. She understood that betrayal isn't just about deceit, it's about patterns of manipulation that repeat across relationships and contexts. The experience, harrowing as it had been, became a lesson not just for her, but for anyone watching. Trust cautiously, observe behavior, and never let charm override evidence. Her resilience shone in moments that were quiet but profound. There were days of reflection, weighing choices she had made, and nights of planning how to move forward with her life intact. Every public reaction, every viral clip, and every supportive comment reinforced her transformation from someone manipulated to someone who now wielded insight, strategy, and clarity. Her growth wasn't just emotional, it was strategic, turning scandal into empowerment. What Daniel did next shocked everyone and changed the game. Even as Lisa rebuilt her life, the story left lingering questions. How would Daniel respond to mounting public scrutiny? Could restitution ever balance the emotional and financial losses? And most importantly, what would happen when the next chapter unfolded? With all eyes watching and expectations high, the stage was set for final reckoning, where emotional closure, justice, and lingering curiosity intersected, promising a conclusion that would satisfy some, surprise others, and leave no one indifferent. By the time the courtroom doors closed, Lisa had transformed. What started as heartbreak and betrayal had evolved into a story of empowerment, resilience, and reclaimed agency. The legal system, combined with her steadfast determination, forced Daniel to confront the consequences of his actions. The financial misappropriation, the web of lies, and the emotional manipulation that once held him untouchable were now exposed, leaving him with little room to maneuver. Lisa walked out not just victorious in court, but mentally and emotionally fortified, having reclaimed control over her life and narrative. She had turned her pain into strategy, her betrayal into insight, and her scandal into a cautionary tale for millions watching. Reflecting on the journey, there are lessons for anyone who has ever trusted someone blindly. Manipulative behavior often starts subtly, disguised as charm or ambition, and escalates quietly until the damage is tangible and undeniable. Lisa's story reminds us to pay attention to patterns, trust our instincts, and not let promises alone dictate decisions, especially when money and emotions intertwine. Recognizing red flags, setting boundaries, and asking difficult questions early can prevent devastation or at least lessen its impact. Emotional intuition is as much a tool as rational assessment. And learning to balance the two can make all the difference in relationships, business dealings, or friendships. Publicly, the response was overwhelming. Fans and commentators dissected every move, comparing notes on Daniel's deceptive tactics and Lisa's strategic resilience. Memes, reaction videos, and discussions flooded social platforms, turning this reality TV drama into a case study of human behavior, manipulation, and recovery. Lisa's growth inspired empathy and admiration. She became a reference point for how to navigate betrayal while maintaining dignity and self-respect. The narrative shifted from gossip to education, from spectacle to empowerment, all while keeping the intrigue alive for anyone following her journey. Yet, even in resolution, the story refused to fully settle. Questions lingered about Daniel's next moves, potential appeals, and the impact on everyone involved. Lisa's victory was significant, but drama never sleeps in reality TV. As the dust settled, hints of new conflicts began surfacing. Old patterns that could resurface, fresh alliances, and potential revelations that could turn the story upside down once again. Every viewer who had followed Lisa's journey was left on edge, wondering what could happen next and how these characters would navigate the aftermath of exposure, loss, and public scrutiny. The story is more than just betrayal, it's about awareness, empowerment, and the ongoing dance between trust and caution. Lisa emerged stronger, wiser, and unshakable, proving that even in the worst circumstances, personal agency can turn a nightmare into a narrative of strength. But for anyone watching closely, the finale isn't the end. New twists, surprising confrontations, and shocking revelations are already waiting around the corner, ready to challenge everything we thought we knew. But the next twist in this story will leave you speechless. Stay tuned.